Let's get right into it. Number 6, your brain's architectural rebellion. Instead of your brain following the standard blueprint, this wrinkly, overly dramatic, energy-guzzling goblin decided before you were born that symmetry is overrated. Instead of following the classic right-handed blueprint like most humans, it flips the architectural plans and says, "Let's spice things up." That's the left-handed origin story in a nutshell, before you even become a person who gets annoyed at Wi-Fi speeds or forgets where you put your phone. Your fetal brain is assigning jobs. Normally, the left hemisphere becomes the boss of fine motor skills, speech, logic, and all the other adulting tasks you pretend to have mastered. But in left-handers, something intriguing happens. That wiring is either reversed, mixed, or distributed in a way that basically screams, "We reject your cookie-cutter neural pathways." Scientists have studied fetal development and noticed that the right hand usually starts moving, more in the womb. But in left-handers, it's the left hand that starts wiggling first. Like it's practicing for a lifetime of opening jars or drawing mediocre doodles with style. Some left-handers still have language dominance on the left side. Some shift it to the right. And some use both hemispheres like a power duo, kind of like running your brain in stereo instead of mono. This mixed wiring might explain why left-handers show up more often in creative fields or in areas that demand unusual problem-solving. It's not that they're magical. Their brains just learn to route information in a way that occasionally feels like they've installed a secret shortcut menu. It's the neurological equivalent of refusing to use the sidewalk because you found a cooler path through the bushes. So, why are some people left-handed? Because their brains were built using blueprints that favor asymmetry, flexibility, and maybe even a little chaos. Congratulations, you're not malfunctioning. You're just rocking a limited edition neural layout. Number 5, DNA's commitment issues. Picture asking your DNA one straightforward question. "Hey, am I going to be left-handed?" And receiving a shrug so loud it echoes through your entire family tree. That's basically genetics and handedness. If left-handedness were controlled by one dramatic, all-powerful gene, it would be easy to predict. But instead, your genome treats handedness like a group project where 40-plus genes show up, scribble something on the page, argue about dominance, and then leave without giving you a clear answer. Here's the wild part. Even though left-handedness runs in families, it's not a guarantee. 2 right-handed parents can have a left-handed kid. 2 left-handed parents can produce a right-handed kid. Genetics is acting like a parent who claims to support your choices, but refuses to sign the permission slip. There is one consistent pattern. Left-handedness is slightly more common in people with certain neurological conditions, but that doesn't mean being left-handed is a disorder. It's more like a side effect of the brain being wired in non-standard ways, and genetics seems perfectly comfortable supporting that variety. In fact, the fact that left-handedness persists in the population at all suggests it's beneficial to have a minority whose brains work differently. Nature never keeps something around for millions of years unless it serves a purpose, or it forgot to clean up. So, your genetics didn't decide you'd be left-handed. They leaned back, spun a wheel labeled motor dominance fortune, and let probability do the rest. If your left hand won, congrats. Your DNA just handed you a life of smudged writing and superior creativity. Number 4. The strategic advantage of being weird. Envision ancient humans smacking each other with sticks, competing for food, or trying not to get eaten by whatever nightmare creature lived in the bushes back then. Most people fought with their right hand because, statistically, that's just how the species leaned. But then, you had the left-handers, these rare, unexpected fighters who swung from the wrong direction, confused their opponents, and probably annoyed the entire tribe. This randomness might actually have been an advantage. Some researchers think the reason left-handedness never disappeared from humanity is because it offered just enough unpredictability to be useful. In combat sports today, Left-handers or southpaws still have a competitive edge. Why? Because everyone trains against right-handers, and suddenly facing someone who mirrors your movements is like trying to fight your reflection. But your reflection has better aim. Now imagine that same dynamic thousands of years ago. You're a right-handed hunter, expecting clean, predictable joint movements from your rival. Then someone comes at you from the opposite angle, like an upside-down puzzle piece. Evolution apparently decided, you know what? Let's keep a small percentage of these weirdos. They make battle spicy. This idea is called negative frequency-dependent selection, which is a fancy way of saying being rare makes you useful. Left-handedness stayed in the population because it worked best when it wasn't common. If everyone were left-handed, the advantage would disappear. But with only about 10% of people using their left hand, the element of surprise stayed alive for tens of thousands of years, along with the left-handers themselves. So, yes, your ancestors might have survived because they were just inconvenient enough to throw off a hungry saber-toothed cat. The legacy continues every time a right-hander sits next to a left-hander at dinner and nearly gets fork stabbed. Number 3. When brain flexibility goes off script. During development, your brain is supposed to follow a neat little checklist. Step 1. Pick a dominant hand. Step 2. Stick with it. Step 3. Don't confuse the child. But for left-handers, the brain often goes, or, and hear me out, we team could do whatever we want. This is where brain plasticity comes in. Plasticity means your brain is flexible, moldable, and constantly reorganizing itself like a chaotic roommate who keeps rearranging the furniture. Most people's motor cortex forms stronger, more efficient connections on the side that controls the right hand. But in left-handers, this process can become wonderfully unpredictable. The wiring might favor the right hemisphere, or it might spread the workload across both hemispheres, like a generous but slightly confused manager. This flexible wiring also shows up in things beyond motor skills. Some studies suggest left-handers have more distributed networks for language, creativity, and spatial awareness. It's not that they're automatically geniuses, although some definitely lean that way. It's that their brains don't follow the one-size-fits-all pattern. They build bridges wherever they feel like building bridges. And because the left-handed brain likes to experiment, it can end up with unusual strengths, better divergent thinking, sometimes stronger nonlinear problem-solving, occasionally the ability to turn scissors into weapons of self-harm while trying to cut paper. Think of it this way. While right-handed brains downloaded the standard operating system, left-handed brains installed the modded version with extra hacks and a few delightful glitches. It's the same software, different map layout. Number 2. How your surroundings nudge the scale picture. A tiny toddler, you or some other barely coordinated mini-human, reaching for a toy, not because of fate or destiny, but because that toy was placed just slightly to the left. Congratulations! Your lifelong battle with spiral notebooks may have just begun. While genetics lays the foundation, your environment can nudge you toward using one hand over the other, especially when you're young and still figuring out which end of a spoon goes where. Babies often show mild hand preferences, but they're not fully committed yet. Their brains are still flexible. For example, if you copy a left-handed parent, or if someone in your family keeps handing things to you on your left side, or if you're stuck in a layout where reaching left just feels easier, your brain may double down and say, yeah, this side feels right, or left, whatever. Early habits can become permanent wiring because the brain loves efficiency. If you use the left hand often enough, your neural circuits start beefing up on that side, like they're training for a hand-specific Olympic sport. There's also the awkward historical factor. People used to force kids to switch to their right hand. Teachers, parents, entire school systems spent decades yanking pencils out of kids' left hands like they were confiscating contraband. But even in those environments, many children still instinctively leaned back toward their left side whenever they weren't being watched. You can suppress preference, but you can't fully erase wiring. So, yes, the environment can encourage, discourage, or complicate handedness, but it's not the whole story. It's more like the stage crew gently pushing props around while your genetics and brain architecture run the show. And if the stage crew nudges a little too hard, boom, lifetime of left-handed high fives. Number 1. Asymmetry as a feature, not a bug. Consider your brain not as a dignified organ, but as a dramatic artist divided into two hemispheres. But really, they're more like siblings who share chores but never evenly. Every human brain, regardless of handedness, is slightly lopsided. Language, movement, attention, these aren't evenly divided like slices of pizza at a polite party. They're more like pizza slices at a chaotic family dinner where someone's already stolen the biggest piece. Left-handers are simply a more visible example of that asymmetry. Their handedness reflects a deeper truth. The brain thrives on imbalance. Most people's motor dominance leans to the right side of the body because the left hemisphere calls the shots. But in left-handers, the brain reorganizes itself in ways that challenge that pattern. Sometimes the right hemisphere takes over. Sometimes both hemispheres share custody. Sometimes the brain appears to choose left-handedness just to keep things interesting, as if normal wiring was too boring. This asymmetry isn't an error, it's efficiency. Your brain chooses whichever configuration gives it the best performance with the least effort. For 90% of people, that's right-handedness. For 10%, the brain goes, nah, we'll do the deluxe edition. And because of this natural imbalance, humanity gets a nice mix of differently wired brains. Left-handedness is just another perfect example of your biology refusing to be symmetrical purely out of spite. Because human brains absolutely adore asymmetry and aren't afraid to show it. And if you're left-handed, you're a walking, writing, door handle struggling reminder of that. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see more.